Violet, is I think the one thing that, continues to give me amazing confidence in our officiating crew is watching this summer the veterans making sure that they were taking people under their wing. And it's about play call, it's the play is the play, right? That's why we're here. The play is the play, but there's so much more to be able to managing a game effectively as an official.
This podcast is intended solely for educational and discussion purposes. The content shared within this program is not meant to embarrass, criticize, or humiliate any official, coach, team, conference, or fan. Our goal is to educate, inform, and promote a deeper understanding of the art and the profession of officiating, providing insight that benefits all who love and support the game. Welcome to another episode. And you know what? Today in our Keepin It Real segment, this is like the best of the best. I have two ladies, they're my bosses, but on top of them being my bosses, they are my friends, they are big time in women's sports. And I can't even say women's basketball because they're my commissioners. And with that, they got it all. I want to say, Connie, thank you. Jaynee, I am so excited to have both of you here with me today in just a candid conversation about the state of women's basketball and why officiating development, why it matters, why it's so important in our game. So I just want to start. Connie, just tell us a little bit about you, and then Jaynee, you follow, and then we'll just get into a candid conversation.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Violet. Good to see you, Jaynee. I have been in conference management of college athletics with a focus on women's basketball for a very long time. I've served as commissioner of the Patriot League. I was senior director of basketball operations, which included officiating operations at the WNBA for 4 years. After a break, went back to the Western Athletic Conference and am now executive associate commissioner of the West Coast Conference.
Beautiful. Jaynee?
And I aspire to be Connie, if we're being honest here. But I've been with the Big Sky Conference for 25 years. Prior to that, I was a student athlete at Weber State. Played volleyball and basketball there. So I've actually been involved in the Big Sky for 30, in women's sports for 30 of, I think we're at what year are we at now with big women's sports? I want to say 35 years, 35. So I've been there for 30 of their 35 years. Been around a long time, started in sports information, worked into marketing, championships, and then I got promoted. They call it a promotion, but now I work in compliance and governance, and I just keep asking myself what I did. But as part of that, I get to oversee women's basketball and volleyball as two of the sports I cover. Been very, very blessed to get to work with some amazing people in the conference, with you, Violet, and get to have Connie as a mentor to run things by and answer her questions that she never has for me. But I really appreciate this opportunity to speak and be a part of this. So thank you.
Well, what's funny that the two of you say that is because one thing that I've learned over the years of working with both of you is how supportive the two of you are with my program. You're supportive in my training program. You're supportive in just helping officials in every aspect. Us having our development program, because I think, especially with the growth of our game right now and how we're having all these, school, conferences are leaving, conferences are coming, schools. At this point, it takes me a minute to figure out what school is with what conference because things are changing. It's crazy right now. So how has that affected the WCC and how has it affected the Big Sky?
I'll start it, Jaynee. I think from the WCC's perspective, the change has been, and I'm going to be specific to women's basketball and a little even specific to women's basketball officiating. I think the impact of the Pac-12 being in hiatus for 2 years has been incredibly impactful. I think we saw a lot of officials with I say this with absolutely no ill will, deciding to align with different conferences in the absence of a Power Four conference on the West Coast. I think that's created some challenges for our whole officiating crew because I think we lost a lot of our leadership that had been with us for a long time who decided to make some personal decisions to do something else with their career off the West Coast, really put people in some cases in leadership positions on the court, on our floors, on our conference and non-conference games, maybe quicker than even Violet you would have really liked because of the holes that you had to fill. And I think they've I think I kind of think of it as our group. I know we're not all one group, but I think there's enough collegiality and connection in the West Coast conferences that we can say that our officials responded very well to that. And
Wow,
without
dead
with
on.
some growing pains, but we're going to get better and we're going to get better. It's not going to be anybody's first time out in the U position this year, or not as many. And I think our coaches understood what some of that transition was last year, and the movement forward was palatable during the season. And I think based on what we saw with summer training, we're just going to keep moving forward.
Beautiful. Jaynee?
Yeah, no, I would agree with everything Connie said. I think we did see, some issues when those changes were made for professionally for those officials. I think the Big Sky has a really unique situation. We've been able to maintain our membership through a lot of the landscape changes we've seen in the last several years. And part of that is we're a football conference, and so we have certain requirements. But I think that it's been helpful for us. We've maintained a lot of stability. That being said, our footprint is crazy in this conference, and the travel for officials is really tough, and it always has been. So that's one of the things we always think about too when we're looking at potentially expanding or whatever. What does that do to our footprint, and how is that going to impact other areas that we may not be thinking about? And officiating would be one of those. I think that, Violet, you've done a great job ensuring that they're trained up, but we do understand that, you're bringing in some new ones, and there's going to be a few growing pains here and there. And it's part of the game, right? It's part of, and every conference is going through it.
You know what? Both of you are dead on. And it's funny that you say it because I've had these discussions with both of you. And Connie, you're dead on. You're absolutely correct that, I knew that when the Pac-12 left, and I knew that there were a lot of our officials that were going to get a little more experience. There's no question about that. What I didn't anticipate was, our top 7 leaders really working as much as they did for the Power Fours. I didn't anticipate that, but you know what? It's called stuff happens. And the positive for me is that we've had our training program from the beginning. And it was something that when I interviewed with both of you, I said, hey, look, we have to have some type of training ground, because how about if we wouldn't have had a training ground, we would really be up a creek right now. It would be worse. And I think the only difference is that, yes, did we have younger officials having to work, but it was more so they were already working. Now they just had work a couple of more games, and some of them that were maybe part-time crew chiefs now had to be full-time crew chiefs because we needed their leadership. But eventually that was going to happen anyway. So it wasn't something where I looked at it and went, oh my God, we're not going to be okay. And that's why I said, hey, look, we are going to have some growing pains. And I think for both of you, that even when I sat down with our coaches, I was honest with them. And I think that's one thing that I do my best, even with our coaches and with you, is to be honest, to say, you know what? We're not perfect. We'll never be perfect, but we are going to bust our butts. We're going to work hard. We're going to train and develop, and we're going to get better. There's no question. How about those veteran referees we had? They had the same growing pains when they were young, starting out. It's just that obviously having the Pac-12 and being able to use them more as me being, their number one. Now I'm not their number one. Some of them I'm number 0, but that's okay. Because we have a great number. We have a consortium where it's like a soft consortium of really, really good young referees that want to work for us. And that's what's most important. I need for you to go out, do your training, work hard, communicate. And as long as we continue to do that, we're going to get better. There's no question about it, because we know that none of us are perfect. I don't care. You could have the best in the country. The best in the country is going to miss the same plays as the inexperienced referee. It goes without saying. It's just that, a lot of our coaches, they were used to our veterans, and that's understandable. But even now, they're becoming more comfortable with the younger officials because they're seeing them more. They're seeing them at the beginning of the season, in the middle of the season, and once we get to conference tournaments, which makes all the difference in the world. But what do the two of you say as far as, because now we have the portal with teams changing like drastically. We have NIL money for players, and that's driving players to want to go to a different school. I want to go to this conference and that conference. I was watching yesterday was our opening night, and I'm watching all these different games, and I'm seeing players, and I went, didn't she play for this school last year, and now she's with this team? I mean, they're changing like crazy. What do you guys say to that?
It's not the NCAA we grew up in, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I also say that I would never be able to play in today's game either. I mean, they've advanced so much, and then with obviously with the NIL, with the transfer portal, the additional media exposure, it's almost unrecognizable to an extent. And then to work in it and just be like, yeah, we're figuring it out as we go. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that too. But I don't know, Connie, what do you think?
I have to give all the credit to the coaches that can get us through this. I think that the idea that you recruit with the idea that you're building a team that you're going to be building on. This would blow my mind if I was a coach, because I think just exactly how you respond to it, how you decide what you think you need, how you don't know until April who's going to come back. It's amazing. I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks just because I feel like it's got to calm down at some point. I think the novelty of it will wear out. I don't know, Jaynee's rolling her eyes at me, but I'm kind of hoping there's something gets a little bit less novel about it, and somebody's approach to kind of going maybe back to the idea that you want to develop as a player with a specific coach. That's gone. I mean, as far as I can tell, especially, when you're not a power four, that's a very difficult thing for our coaches to hold on to, because we're cultivating the players, we're training them up, we're getting them ready for the next step, and they go.
Well,
I want to go back a little bit, if I could make one more comment about what we talked about with the importance of our training, Violet, is I think the one thing that, continues to give me amazing confidence in our officiating crew is watching this summer the veterans making sure that they were taking people under their wing. And it's about play call, it's the play is the play, right? That's why we're here. The play is the play, but there's so much more to be able to managing a game effectively as an official. And it's those, I'll call them soft skills, but they're not really soft skills. They're really critical. But how an official can manage players, manage a game, and manage coaches, manage the rule changes, manage the new challenges, manage all that stuff. There's a lot going on. And again, I've always been, I get to that summer training and it lifts me up because I see the professionalism. I see the devotion. I see the devotion that all of our crew have to their craft, to their profession, and to their colleagues. That's why we're so strong.
Wow. You know what? That says a lot, Connie, because, without the support of the two of you and our other commissioners and our little soft consortium, we wouldn't be where we are today. And that you hit it right on the head because, for me, trying to make sure that the veteran referees we have. And what's great is I have been on so many different Zoom calls. It's incredible that we have all these little pockets of mentorships, and they have a Zoom this week and somebody else has a Zoom next week, and they have all these referees on these Zooms because what they've done is they've expanded our summer training. It used to be where we only had our summer training in the summer, and we get together and we have a beautiful time. We have our 3 or 4 or 5 days together, and it's beautiful, and we need that. And I can say that our staff looks forward to coming to training, but to now see how it's taken to the next level, and we have so many different mentor groups and different Zooms and test groups, and it goes to show you the dedication. It goes to show you that they understand the challenge that I'm giving them, because I'm constantly telling them, look, we got to get better. Our teams are better. Our coaches expect it. especially with the change of just the way that women's basketball is, and it's at its peak right now, that it is our obligation to give this game 150% every single night. We know that we're not perfect. And I say it, you two of you know, I'll tell our coaches in a heartbeat. I wish we were perfect, but we're not. We're human. They make decisions in real time. But here's what we do. We study, we train, we're developing, and we're professionals. Because if we can continue to stay with that, we can give our game exactly what it needs, which is so important for me because that's my job. My job is to prepare our officials to be the best they can be, night in and night out, and to be able to deal with whatever it is they have to deal with, because every game is different. None of them are the same at any point in time. You don't know what you're going to get, but just to prepare and be ready to go out and work hard and just do the best job you can. And without our training program, we wouldn't be there. And that falls back on the two of you and our other commissioners, because if we didn't have your support, we would just be a fish out of water right now trying to find our way. But you understand where we are in today's officiating, in women's basketball, because I remember the days. Jaynee, you said it best. You said, the days of a player going to a school and being dedicated to the school and the coach has been thrown out of the window. Because when I played at Cal Poly, I didn't even think of leaving my school. I love my coach. I love my school. When you played, Jaynee, you wouldn't think of leaving. Mm-mm. That never even crossed your mind.
No, I mean, I will be honest, it did cross my mind, but.
Of course it did.
But. That was because I was a freshman and life was hard and I was drama. But, there were rules in place that there was something you're going to sit out, not just for a season, because then we also had a conference rule about it. So I am so grateful that I did not leave, because those friendships are there forever. What I've noticed is a lot of the coaches now are really having to change kind of the way they coach, and not in terms of being easier, but in terms of how do we create that loyalty and get them to come back, versus I think previously they're just like, if you want to leave, good luck. There's more people that'll end, where now the power rests a little bit more with the student athlete. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I think that they have to recruit differently and they have to coach differently in a way that makes those athletes want to stay. I'm always surprised. There's some coaches I think do really, really well, and it's always surprised me when they do lose somebody, because I'm like, oh, wow. There's obviously something else that maybe she's got an ally offer somewhere.
Right.
So,
well, it's funny that you say that, because, we're going with the portal. And I feel like, with the changes in the portal, because like you just said, it used to be where, you could leave a school, but you would actually have to sit out. And a lot of players, they didn't want to lose that year. They didn't want to have to not play, versus they kind of changed those rules with the portal that you don't have to sit out anymore. And remember, you couldn't, and again, because I never did it, so I'm not 100% on it, but wasn't there a point in time where if you were trying to go to a school within the same conference, there was a rule against that?
Yeah. Some conferences, I think most conferences had an interconference transfer rules. Yeah, that was the other piece of it, because it'd be the 1 year for NCAA and then another year for the Big Sky.
Right.
It's tough.
But that's out the window too.
Yeah, I think with the fact that NIL exists, and you could say you're costing me money, and the courts are always going to rule in favor of that.
And the conference eligibility rules went out, at least 10, 15 years ago, I think, too. I mean, because they're kind of indefensible. They're indefensible, so we got rid of those, and now in this landscape, it's more of a player's game. There's no question.
It is.
Yes. And of course, that we both say this is that with me trying to make sure that I'm educating our officials so that no, this doesn't affect them, because again, we just need 2 teams, 10 players, and 2 coaches, and we're gonna go referee. But you still have to have that understanding and that knowledge, the pressure that coaches are under, the stress that they're under, the scrutiny that coaches are under, the scrutiny that our officials are under. Because again, all of these things come into play in certain games, certain times. And I think even for me, trying to make sure that I educate our officials that they have to have this awareness. Because, I've had some of them, they're in a game and they have a particular coach and they go, oh my God, he was so intense today. He was different than he was before. And I'm like, yeah, you don't know. He probably lost a couple of kids and now he's playing. These kids are on this team and they're playing against them tonight. So which brings a little different atmosphere within the arena sometime too. So for us, not that it doesn't affect the officiating, but it's real important that we understand when you have a player that played, for Jaynee last year, and now she's playing for Connie, and they're playing against each other. Tempers can flare. You can have things that happen in a game. You really don't know, but you can't go into the game blindly like, oh, la, 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 la. No, 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 no. You need to know these things. You need to have these discussions amongst your crew so that we're just prepared, and that preparation can just save us every single night because you don't know.
No. Yeah, you can't. Right, the intensity is ratcheted up for so many different reasons, right? It's exactly what you said. When you've got players that were on one side of the ball and now they're on the other side of the ball. I think it's just also, again, I think the exposure that women's basketball is getting. I think our institutions are financing it in a better way. And I think there's lots of pressures that come with that. And that's the good and bad of everything. It's great to see that institutions have somewhat higher expectations of their women's sports programs. But that comes, that's going to ratchet it up. So it's kind of the price where I don't think it's a negative price, right? But it's an offshoot of the incredible exposure and more broad interest in women's basketball at the collegiate level and at the professional level that we're seeing night after night, month after month, almost now 12 months a year.
Yes. And you know what is funny? I tell our officials, you're right. And I say to our officials, I said, look, this is what we wanted. Because, I remember when I first started, because I've been doing this 15 years now, which I can't believe it. I'm like, wow, 15 years as a coordinator is crazy. It's been awesome, but I just can't believe it's been that long. And I say to officials that, you know what? You got to know every single night that your butt's on the line. And you got to know that you got to pay attention. You got to be a professional. You got to work hard. All these things have to fall in place every single night because that's what we get paid for. That's what our conference is. That's what I demand. I know that the two of you, this is what you're expecting. And the one thing that I really take pride in is that our officials that work for us, they want to be here and they want to work hard. I give them credit for that. They study, last night was opening night. And when I woke up this morning, you guys wouldn't believe how many plays I got in my inbox where they, at least see for me, I know that they watch video. I know that they're studying. I know that it's beginning right now where every single night they work their games, they're watching their video, they're looking at what they didn't do right, they're talking as a crew because it means something. And you're right, Connie, that the way women's basketball is right now, and I said to them, I think you heard me when we were in Phoenix, I said, if you're not excited to be a part of women's basketball right now, something's wrong with you because this game has gone to another level. And I said it to my staff about 10 years ago when we were complaining. We goes, oh, well, why we don't have more games on TV and why we don't, we don't get a TV schedule like the men. And I said, be careful what you wish for because now we do. It's like 99.9% of every single game is on ESPN Plus. So I go, you can't hide anymore. You can't hide from people seeing your mistakes. You can't hide for working well, or if the game didn't go well, or if, God forbid, a fight break out, everybody's going to know it because everyone who has ESPN Plus can watch every single game, every single night. And mind you, what's crazy is you can even watch them on demand. You don't even have to watch them live. You can watch them, which that's a great tool for me, by the way. Thank you very much. I can just go back any game that I didn't watch. I go to on demand. I can watch it which is beautiful for someone as a supervisor like myself when it comes to training and developing. But, and I say it to my staff, is that you got to be careful what you wish for, because you open up Pandora's box, you're going to get what you get. No different than now. I never forget when the monitor came into play. I told the staff, I said, okay, this is going to grow more and more and more. So where are we now? We got our coaches' appeals, where coaches now can say, hey, look, you know what? I didn't like that call. Let me take a look at it, which is still okay. You know, I had a conversation with a crew yesterday, and they had an appeal. And I told them, and this was interesting because they literally, the coach appealed the backcourt play. I think it was the backcourt. I've had so many, but it was a backcourt play. And they went to the monitor and they looked at it and they didn't change it. And I said, why? You know, we actually had to go through a discussion, because I'm now having to deal with even our crews amongst each other, that if it's my play, I'm connected to the play and I don't want to be wrong. But I have to say to them, take away your connection to the play. When they appeal the play and we go to the monitor, and this is just educating my staff, you have to look at the play for what it is. No one's going to look at you in a different way if the call is reversed and you got it wrong. You made a decision based on what you saw in real time. It's real easy to go to the monitor and now look at it and go, no, that's not right. It should be this. I said, and that's okay. I said, I'm not looking at you in a different light. I'm just looking at, here's a rule that's in place for us to get it right. You look at it at the monitor, you make the decision solely based on what you see on the monitor. Whether you get clear and concise information, you can change it. If you don't, the call on the floor stays the same. And I think even for me now, I'm going to have to do a lot more educating. And I wouldn't say coddling, but just giving the staff good nuggets on how do you deal with having, you made a call on the floor, someone appeals it, you go to the monitor, now you're wrong, and how you feel about it. And I'm telling them, I said, you know what, how about this? I wouldn't have any feelings about it. I would go, it's just a play.
Mm-hmm.
We make
hundreds. And volleyball officials do it every single day. And in the minor leagues in baseball, they're doing strikes versus, balls instantly, right? And so it's got to be something they're going to have to, get used to for sure. But no, maybe Connie will get mad at him. I won't get mad at him. If you want to assign them all the really good ones to the Big Sky, I would be happy to take that.
And I think that the truth, Violet, there's also all those plays, and that's what you're talking about with the backcourt, wherever that was. That's probably a perfect example. Is that official's got to go back in the locker room going, I got to get my eyes on that. I'm not sure about that.
Yes.
I just think that as long as I've been involved with the game, everybody's judgment is everything is such bang bang, right? If you have the opportunity to go back and get it right, for heaven's sakes, give yourself the ladder. Give yourself the ladder to get out of there.
Wow.
And I think they'll get used to that. I think they do. They go back to, you know how it is. It's like, you want to go back, you might want to look at that one. Everybody knows that. And it's part of post-game, every game I've ever been involved with.
You're absolutely correct.
This is giving yourself a ladder on the court to get out of that, right there.
Well, and I think for me, it goes back to just educating and educating them in a way that, in reassuring them, because that's a part of my job, to be that person that reassures them that, what, how about this? That's why I said, disconnect yourself from the play. And I said that yesterday till about 3 crews, and they went, wow, boss, we never looked at it like that. I said, don't have this personal connection so that you now take ownership, like, I don't want to be wrong. I said, this is not about being wrong. It's about getting the play right. And that's what you just said, Connie, is that that's our ultimate goal here. And that's why the appeal is in place. That's why we now have the monitor. I go, it's about, we just want to be right. And however we can be right, I'm okay with that. And for me, it's now me educating my staff or our staff to teach them that, how about this? Don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as, we're getting the play right. We're doing what's best for our game. And however we have to do that, that's what we'll do. Because that's what,
And with
go
everything
ahead.
on ESPN, with everything on ESPN Plus, everybody at home seeing it 3 times anyway.
I say that to them all the time. I go, look,
Right.
how about this? If you don't want to be wrong, then you don't need to
You're
go
not
out
hiding.
there.
Yeah, you're
You
not
can't
hiding.
hide
Right.
anymore because
Right.
this is a new day. This is where we are, and it's okay, you know. But I told them, I said, look, I said, how about this? You guys, we're talking about 1 or 2 plays. You guys do an amazing job. 1 or 2 plays we're going to go over and we're going to look at, and we may change them. I said, probably 9 times out of 10, the call on the floor is going to stand because we're that good. I said, so don't look at the 1 or 2 plays that we have to overturn and look at that as a negative against the crew or yourself, because that's not it. So, I'm saying it because obviously for me being here with my bosses, I'm sure, because we have officials across the country that are watching this, and they're going to have a sigh of relief, like, thank you, boss. I don't have the ownership to the play. It's not that serious. It's a
No, and
play.
I'm sure this is something that's happening on a national level now, Violet, with this rule change. This is something
I'm
that's
sure.
not obviously just affecting our crews. And again, it is going to be a learning thing and a little bit of an emotional detachment, like you're talking about.
Well, ladies, you know what? When it comes to you two, I love talking with you. I am so thankful when I have you guys come to summer training and hang out with me and listening, and just your support means the world to me. I just think you're two of the best. I think you've been around this business for such a long time, and you're around it because you love women's basketball, but you love sports, period, because you don't only have to deal with women's basketball. And I just thank you. I thank you for your leadership. I thank you for your support. I thank you for entrusting me. I have to say that, and because it could be someone else, but I'm very, very thankful. And I am so grateful and positive of the direction that our staff is going. We have good officials. We have professional officials. We have officials that work hard, that study. And Connie, you hit it right on the head. We're going to get better. And we are getting better. There's no question about it. The play is the play. You know what? I am so honored and proud. I got my boy, Benny Luna, with me, and he sent me a great play. Thank you for coming out, hanging out with me for a little while on the podcast. You sent me a great play. So we're going to actually put this play up, and Benny and I are going to kind of go through it and just do our discussion. So Benny, once the play gets up, kind of just tee it up for us and tell us what we're looking for.
Cool. So this is a good play. It's a coverage play, and it's tight. So and I guess the teaching point on this one is just being confident and trusting the system. We'll take it from there. So can you please cue it back a little bit from the beginning? I like that the lead goes to wide angle to accept the play.
Me too.
Which is great. So now, as you could tell, this is going to be a drive going to the basket, and we're going to have a secondary defender that's going to have us make a decision. Stop, please. So as the lead, we have to understand we cannot switch defenders on this play. We as the lead are still responsible for the primary defender, for push, for trips, and for hits.
Oh, man. You know what, Benny? Let me tell you something. What you just said is nails. That's the key thing. And I remember several years ago, we were in summer training and we had clips after clips after clips because we thought we could switch defenders. And I'm not saying that we're not good enough to do it, but what we learned fundamentally, those are not good habits because it's difficult to do. And because our game is improving, our players are a lot faster, and looking at this, that's the first key thing that you said, and I really, really like it. Now, would you agree, before we get to the contact and looking, you're in great position, you're below the 28-foot. We look at our center here because obviously our center has nothing that's going on right now. And this is where we got to get better at our center position, because I really believe that he or she could take a couple of steps on the floor to be a little more connected to the play. Would you agree?
I agree too. And you also, if you do take a step into the floor, you're being aggressive towards this play. You're telling your body that you want you want to attack these plays to the basket.
Yes.
So being on the sideline sometimes will not make you make a decision, but I would like for the C to have a step or two into the floor to be aggressive on this play. I totally agree with you.
Perfect. All right. So let's run it back from where the lead has the primary defender, because that point you made about what they're responsible for was excellent.
Okay. So stop. Go back, please. Back. Okay. Freeze. So right now the lead is, like I said, still responsible for primary defender. Mm-hmm. She could get tripped. They could be held. They could also get slapped. So for some reason, our anxiety as the lead feel that we need to go get that second defender just because it's on our primary. Even though the play happened in our primary, it's not our defender. So we have to trust the system and say, okay, you know what? It's not my it's not my defender. I need to have someone else have an opinion on this play.
Well, can I give you one other point? Just
Sure.
hold it for 1 quick second. Now, I totally agree 100%, because we had this discussion too, because we feel like in our center position that we're going almost to the lane line furthest from us, which is real tough too for a center to do, because remember we had a conversation in summer training where everybody was like, oh, that's too far. I got to go way over there. But literally, that's one reason why we said that it is, as a center, when you have nothing in front of you, to take a couple of steps on the floor, because he or she would feel more connected to the play. Because when you look at this, that defender in black, that's the only thing that she has to be responsible for right now. She don't
Correct.
have nothing else in front of her.
Correct. Totally agree with you.
Man, and
Yes,
that play just blow up.
That was tight, but in my opinion, she did beat her to the spot.
Yes.
And I mean, we got lucky.
We
on
did.
this
I
play,
like what you say
but
that.
However, we have to create good habits and not have primary whistle on a secondary defender. We want the center to have actually not even a primary whistle, a cadence whistle too, because we do a bad job on blowing on contact.
Correct.
We do start, develop, finish. Start.
I like it.
See if the contact develop. Then you get to, I guess, make a decision if the contact is legal or illegal, and then finish. Then you make your decision. So I think if we slow down a little bit and create good habits, our percentage on plays go higher.
You know what? You are 100% correct, because this, and I can understand him, because you said something with the anxiety, that just happens, and it happens to all of us. But again, the more we talk about it, and I think that's the key component to this, even if we, like with this play, and I do like that we got lucky, but you know why we get lucky on it? Because the lead was wide and he could see it. He actually had a good view of everything, even though he did switch defenders right at the end, but he could see that defender out his peripheral because he was wide. Now, if he was tight, we may have a different decision on this play. But because he started off in really good position, he's at wide angle, he had all the players in his view, and he gets lucky to get it correct. But I agree, because if he was in more, this play would blow up on him and he wouldn't know what the hell happened, to be honest with you. But we get lucky, we get it right, and it's tight, because as we can see, she's planted right here.
Yep.
And she hasn't left the floor yet. So that defender is actually legal in this case. But I like that after this game, you guys got in the locker room and you had a really, really good discussion on switching defenders, secondary defenders, because that's the key to this. And we have gotten so much better as a staff with getting plays like this, because if you recall 3 or 4 years ago, we had crashes like this and we would have no whistles. And I said, we can't do this. This is killing us. Because
we were not gonna have a no whistle on this one, because as a trail, you could see me attacking this play too.
Yes.
Just in case. I mean, our C didn't have a decision, but it did surprise me that the lead had primary whistle on this one. And we talked about it.
Good.
And I did tell him, it's a lot of self-talk. It's hard, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just self-talk. Not my play, not my play. And then, move on.
Yeah, no, and that was excellent. I like, and here's the other good thing. When you look at a play like this, you guys, we get to the locker room and you just broke it down. You broke down each position, and like yourself, I can tell by your body language, if he wouldn't have had a whistle and she wouldn't have had one, you would have made a decision on the play. I can tell by your body language.
Oh, yeah.
And which is a good thing, though, but the discipline I really love. And I'm not sure, and I don't know, when you guys got to the locker room, did the center say, what did she have to say? Did she think it was her defender?
She had, it was her play, and she was going to make a decision on it, but the lead didn't give her an opportunity. And then when we did talk in the locker room, I told the lead, hey, what is your responsibility as we broke down the clip, because she got bypassed her, which is okay. I go, but you're still responsible for, again, the trips, the push, the holds, and back to our training. When we switch defenders, most of the time, we don't get those plays right. So just trust the system, be patient. I know your anxiety is up there, because you feel it's your play, because it's in your primary, but it's not your play. It's the C split. And he was okay. We're like, okay, it's a good learn. It was good learning for her. And our center is just like, I was gonna get it, but he just blew on contact, which is okay. It happens.
Which is okay.
We're all human.
Here again, here's what I love. I love that everyone owned their place on the play, as far as whether it's my primary, it's my secondary. Again, I give the lead credit. I like the aggressiveness, but I would still want us to continue have the conversations, because the more we have the conversations about being disciplined and about that anxiety of being in that position, when you're in that lead position, and plays are coming right at you, you want to make decisions on them. You feel like you're supposed to, and that's okay, as long as we still get in the locker room, have our discussions, because that's going to help with the anxiety. That's going to help us do a better job of not doing it, and understanding why we're doing it. You're doing it because of the anxiety, and that's okay. We know that all of us have felt that way when the play is coming down to shoot. But again, because of coverage, and we're doing a better job with breaking down our coverage, and you did that to the T, which was great. That will continue to get better. We'll slow down. That anxiety. I don't think that anxiety will never go away, but it'll just be where you're going to trust the system.
Correct.
And overall, I think our staff is really doing a better job of trusting the system. Again, not that we were horrible with the coverage on this play. It's just having that self-talk, self-awareness every time we go to the locker room, when we have these discussions, that, hey, you know what? I got to do a better job of not switching defenders, holding my whistle. Now, and I would say to the lead, Benny, how about this? You hold your whistle, you see the contact, nobody does anything, it's not a no call. He could,
Correct.
mind you, I'm like, dude, you can still come in and have the play, but at least you're going to allow the center, who has primary cadence on this particular play, to blow. If they don't blow, then you blow. No different, like you said, hey, if he wouldn't have jumped on it and our center didn't have a whistle, you would have came in with a whistle. And if all of us continue to, treat our coverage plays like that, then we'll get better and better and better. So again, great play, great discussion, nailed it to the T. I love it. And a great teaching moment is that, you know what, you're going to have the anxiety coming down to shoot when you're in the lead. And you got to know that, you don't want to switch defenders. And I think the more we have those discussions and talk about it, we're going to slow down and we'll get better at plays like this. Well, I want to thank you, Benny Luna. You're my boy, my guy. And great play, great discussion. How about let's do this? We got a good teaching moment. I would like for everyone, go watch your video, take a look, pull some plays where you felt that anxiety, and take a look at that play and see if you You know, if you refereed it correctly, if you jumped on it because you had the anxiety and you felt like it was in your primary, but it really wasn't your defender, I freaking would love for everyone to take a couple of plays, take a look at them, break them down, and that's your homework. So again, we're going to continue to train, continue to develop, continue to watch plays, and we'll continue to get better. Thanks, everyone. Again, remember, the play is the play. Peace out.